Welcome to the most complete beginner guide for Monster Hunter Wilds on the internet. In this guide, I'm going to go over absolutely everything in this game to make sure that you understand all of it. Monster Hunter Wilds is a massive game with a lot of systems, a lot of mechanics, and a lot of menus that you have to digest and understand before you really feel like you know what you're doing in this game. And if you already know a little bit about the game, feel free to use the timestamps to jump around to the topics you need more information on. One of the most useful things to understand about Monster Hunter Wilds is it's always telling you what you can do or what button you could press. It's just not always obvious that it's doing so. Like right now in the top right corner of the screen, it says ready weapon. Press Y, the weapon's out. Now it tells me what my abilities are that I can do. Charge slash with Y, wide slash with B, offset rising slash with Y and B at the same time, evade with A, or focus mode left trigger. Right? So if you're ever not sure what you can do in a certain moment, like what button you need to press to pull off a certain move, try pulling out your weapon and just taking a look, or get on your mount. Or get on your mount. And now when you're on your mount, it's telling you how to sprint, how to stop, how to use your slinger, right? We use left trigger and then we fire it, or we hook an item in. And it's telling us how to speed up the mount by pressing our right bumper, or how to dismount it. So take a glance up there anytime you're doing something in this game, and you might be surprised to find out what you have access to up there. Whether it's combos with your weapon, you'll notice when we dodge roll, it says I could do a tackle, or I could do a wide slash out of this, right? It's literally telling you what you can do in real time at any given moment, making it really handy to pay attention to as you're learning your buttons in this game. Other important features to know about on the UI, of course, in the top left corner, you've got your health and stamina bar. When you go into combat, they will expose themselves. So there they go. Now you can see that some of my health and some of my stamina bar look like they're not full at the start of the battle. That's because I have not consumed a meal. So my character is hungry. He needs food. So there's a few different things that you can do to handle this. Ideally, you're going to eat a meal before you come out to hunt. Worst case scenario, you can eat a ration from your quick slot wheel if you happen to have one there, or you can set up your portable barbecue, and from here you can grill a meal, a full-on meal, right? You can make a recommended meal, which is just going to cook your rations and tells you on the right side there what benefits you'll get from doing that. Or you could make a custom meal out of ingredients that you've got as you're playing the game, or you can grill meat. Now the way you do this is you're going to listen, and as soon as he turns it over, you'll hear a tss right there. You saw the steam come off, and then there's gonna be like a mini game you play, and you try to slice that as he's going down it. And if you do it right, you'll get like 12 steaks. A lot of people say the easiest way to do that is to listen to the music and close your eyes and just kind of tap to the beat. But now that we've grilled some meat, we can come into our inventory here and we have a ration. We could eat that, or we could go over to our well done steak, eat that. And now if you look at our health and stamina bar, boom. Now we're using our full health bar and we're using most of our stamina bar. This isn't as good as if we had a meal that we cooked ourselves in camp, or even better yet, as you play through the game, you'll unlock the ability to be invited to really powerful meals that give you insane buffs. The most powerful buffs that you can get from meals will be given to you by NPCs. You'll randomly see this symbol on the map next to one of these zones. You go to that zone, you talk to that NPC, and they will cook a nice, delicious meal for you, giving you the most powerful buffs in the game. Those buffs are going to increase your damage, and they're going to massively decrease the amount of damage you take, among other things. Below the health and stamina bar, you've got your sharpness meter. Generally, you're going to want to keep your weapon as sharp as you possibly can. If you use your weapon to attack, you'll notice that your sharpness meter goes down. There are two ways to sharpen your weapon with your whetstone. You can either open your radial menu and select it, or you can cycle through your list of items in the bottom right of the screen there until you get to your whetstone, and then you can use it there. You'll always want to keep your weapon as sharp as possible so that you're doing as much damage as possible. And then on the left side of the screen, you've got your PALICO. My PALICO's name is Potato, and their health bar will show up and you can see if they're about to die or anything. And then your PALICO is also going to do some amazing things as you play this game. At first, they're going to heal you, but then as you level them up, you're going to give them the ability to lay down traps. You're going to give them the ability to pick you up if you faint, so that you get one extra faint before you fail a mission. Typically, if you faint 3 times on a mission, you fail it. That's the fail condition. You can also take too long to do a mission or a hunt, and that will cause you to fail it as well. But the most common mode of failure for people is definitely going to be fainting too many times. For instance, if we look at this hunt right here, either one of these, we can go to this top one, great quest, and down there, it says failure conditions. Time expires or faint 3 times. So if the time expires, you fail. If you faint 3 times, you fail. And that is party wide. So if there's 4 people in the party and 3 of them die 1 time, you fail, right? It's a shared faint count. So you don't want to be the guy that's using up all the feints for the group and causing them to fail if you can help it. Then below that, it says herb, sandpepper, and bitterbug. And that's telling you the nodes that are nearby. If you hold down your left trigger, you can actually select them without looking, and then you can just press B, just like it says, and your character will shoot out his little hook and he'll grab that item. This is especially handy when you're auto-pathing to your next hunt. So this can be really helpful if you're zipping through the zone and you just want to see what's around. Press B, boom, it pulls it, it picks it up. And if you're playing on a different platform, you know, it's going to tell you what the button is that you're going to need to press for you. If you're on PC, PlayStation, Xbox, right? It's always going to tell you the button for the controller or the keyboard that you're using. Now, one of the things you're going to do in this game once in a while is you're going to mount an enemy. Mounting, all you have to do is run at them and jump, and you'll land on their back, assuming that their meter, their mount meter, it's hidden, has been filled. Just do enough damage to them, and you should be able to jump on them, and then there's a little bit of a time delay where you'll be able to do it again. And then you'll try to create as many wounds as possible by stabbing them. Just basic strong knife attacks is fine to create these wounds. And you'll notice my stamina meter is going down as I'm up here. So you have a finite amount of time to do all this. Then at the end, you want to do your big attack. Boom. And chop one of those wounds. And then you've got the other 2 wounds that you can use your focus strikes on after that. So you're going to want to pop those. Popping wounds is going to do a few things for you. It's going to give you materials to craft armor and weapons with, aka it's going to give you animal parts, just like you see popping up on the right side of the screen there. It's also going to do significantly more damage to the enemy than a regular attack whenever you hit a wound and pop it like that. To create a wound, all you have to do is hit the same spot on a monster repeatedly. Another thing to be aware of is that enemies have parts of their body that you're going to want to focus on. So if you have something like a hammer, you're going to use it on the enemy's head to break their horns or to give the enemy a concussion because you're using this blunt object to attack them. If you've got something like a sword, you're going to use it to try to chop off the enemy's tail. And if the enemy has a tail that's big enough to ride on or to hold on to, right? If it's got a sizable tail, you can chop that thing off. And by doing so, you give you and your group extra materials. Now, as you're injuring the enemy, they're going to run away from you after a while. They're going to change locations. Maybe they're losing the fight and they don't like that. And basically at this point, what you're going to do is follow them to wherever they go next. Now, you're going to hope that there's some things in this area that you can use to your advantage. In this area, there are. You've got this flash trap. It's going to blind the enemy. It's kind of disorient them. You get to attack them. They're going to kind of attack wildly at this point, which means, you know, they're going to keep attacking, but they're going to miss a lot because they don't know where you are. Now, we hit his tail again, and boom, the tail came off. So there it is. It's laying on the floor. If we look at the back of the monster, you can see where the tail used to be there. To chop off the tail, all you have to do is repeatedly hit the tail with a sharp weapon, as opposed to something like a blunt hammer. Another thing you can do is a counter attack. Boom. Like that. If they start coming at you, just get your counter attack ready and you can knock them down or knock them back if you time it right, like that. Then you usually get some kind of a combo that you get to do after. And it's going to result in a nice damage opening for you and your group. Now there's red wounds, and later when you start fighting monstered enemies, you'll get blue wounds. These are tempered wounds. Those are going to also do extra damage when you attack the enemy, but they're also going to give you some really valuable materials that you're going to want to use when it comes to collecting the best items in the end game. Tempered wounds are only going to be found on tempered monsters. Now, when an enemy gets really weak, you'll see a skull, like we see. There's a skull behind that number 9 there, kind of popping up. That's showing that it is really weak. It's on the verge of dying. And there's a couple of things you can do here. You can either choose to kill it by waking it up. Now, because it's sleeping, the first hit you do to it is going to do extra damage. It's going to do double damage. So what you want to do is you want to do your most powerful attack on it to wake it up, because that attack is going to get doubled. So you'll do a big, heavy charged attack or something like that and wake it up with that. Or you can, because that skull is there, you can also capture the animal and you don't have to do the last 1/3 of the fight. This is going to save you a lot of time. It's hard to say whether or not capturing it gives you extra materials or not, like it did in previous versions of the game, because this game doesn't currently tell you that answer. Now he's woke up here. He took a nice little nap, but we can go ahead and place a trap under him, either a shock trap or a vine trap. And then we can trank bomb him with 2 trank bombs, 1, 2. And it's going to capture the enemy. You can see there on the right, it gave us all these materials, just like it would if we had killed it and then carved the corpse for extra materials. So if you kill the enemy, you're going to have to stand on top of it and carve the materials off of it. If you capture it, the materials are just given to you. At that point, you've completed your quest. Then it'll tell you what rewards you got here on the screen. which is great. It'll tell you that you got some XP, some guild points, and some Zenny. We'll go over what those different resources are useful for in this game. One question a lot of people have is, should I be capturing enemies or should I be slaying enemies? Because you can always do one or the other. And my personal preference and the preference of a lot of experienced players seems to be to capture them if you have the ability to do so. If you've got the materials to craft the traps, then go for it. It's just going to save you time. It's just going to cut 30% of the time off of that fight. And some of the more difficult fights, you know, the tempered arcfall or the double hunts where you have to track down 2 different monsters before you complete the mission, shaving 30% off of both of those fights, that can save you massive time. And since you're going to be doing dozens and dozens of these hunts, that can accelerate your progress in this game a lot faster if that's something you're interested in. Most people are interested in that because there's a few breakpoints in this game where you get massive power spikes. One is once you get to hunter rank 10 or so, and you start collecting the materials for your Artian weapons or Artian weapons. We'll talk about those. Don't worry if you don't know what those are. And then another breakpoint at hunter rank 50. And finally, you unlock the last bits of your power at hunter rank 100. So we'll go over all of those things in this video. Don't worry. And if you're enjoying the video, be sure to like and subscribe for more content like this. So that's the basics of hunting down one of these monsters. You're going to do that constantly. If you're ever not sure what monster you should be hunting down, you're going to look for the quest symbol on the map. If you open up your map, you'll see a red quest symbol on a zone. That means you should go to that zone and talk to that person with that marker. And whenever you see optional quests pop up, you're going to go ahead and do those. They'll look very similar to the red one, but they'll be yellow instead. So red is your main quest. That's the campaign. You kind of want to keep pushing that forward anytime you can. And then when an optional quest pops up, do that as well, because that's going to unlock a lot of really useful things for you. Doing the optional quests in every zone is going to curry favor from the people in that zone. They're going to start to like you. They're going to start to offer to do things for you for free. One thing they'll offer to do might be to customize your mount. So now you can customize your mount whenever you want to. Come in here and deck out its colors just the way you would like. Another thing they might do is you might be able to talk to them and they will go and collect materials for you. And the way this works is once you unlock that functionality from that person in that town by doing enough side quests in that area, then you'll get to choose from a list of things that they will gather for you. Now you'll notice it says herb and then it says 2 stars on the right. What that means is the more stars that it has, the better he is or she is at gathering that specific material for you. So I probably wouldn't want to send this guy out for adamant seeds because he's not very good at grabbing those, but he's great at grabbing dragonfell or thunderbug or honey or herb, right? And so you're going to send him out for the thing you need that he's actually decent at grabbing. 2-star and above is great. I try to avoid sending them out on 1-star hunts unless it's an item that I just absolutely want more of. And there will be times because he's going to give you, like if you set one of these guys to honey, you're going to end up with way more honey than you ever need. The reason you collect honey is for mega potions. There's 2 types of potions that you're going to use a lot in this game. The first one is your regular potion and the second one is your mega potion. But after the first few levels, you're never going to want to use a regular potion. It's inefficient. So the way you make mega potions is you add honey to a regular potion and that turns it into a mega potion. And so basically what you're going to do is you're going to turn all of your regular potions into mega potions, and you're only ever really going to use mega potions. You're not going to use the small potions except out on a hunt in a dire situation. And even then, if you can, turn that regular potion into a mega potion before you use it, because it's going to heal you for at least twice as much health. So that's just one reason to do the side quests in these zones alongside your main story quests. It's going to unlock things like that. And then eventually it's going to unlock the meals that I briefly mentioned earlier, where you'll see an invite pop up and it'll say, so-and-so wants to invite you to a meal. And my recommendation is to always accept that invite. Always go there and have that meal because it's going to give you the best buffs in the game and it's going to last a full hour of your playtime. So we open the map, meal invitation. Our mount will run us there. We talk to the person with the symbol over their head for the meal. Like, hey, you want a meal? We're like, abso-freaking-lutely. This is the best buff in the game. And then give you a nice little movie. And gives you the buff. Oh, and there's all the effects it gives us. Look at those. That's so many different buffs from one single meal. And it lasts a whole hour. Amazing. And one helpful tip about meals is when you're in town, your meal does not tick down. So you don't have to worry about racing to get back out of town. You can go to town if you need to AFK for a bit, or if you want to just like sort your items or think about crafting. Don't worry, you're not on the clock. All of your buff timers pause while you're in town. Then in the bottom left corner of the screen, you have your mini map, and below and to the left of the mini map there, it tells you the time of day and the season that you're in. So if we hold down our left bumper, it puts a name to those things. Right now it is nighttime in the fallow season. So the reason that's relevant is because a lot of things in this game only show up during certain times of the day or during certain seasons. And so you'll go on a hunt. If we look in the monster field guide here, we look at these monsters, sometimes you'll get a quest and it says, hey, go grab this one thing or kill this one monster. And it only shows up in this zone during this season. And so you'll have to keep an eye out for that change to come until you get to the end game. And when I say end game, I'm saying once you've completed the main story and you're able to go into your tent, and from here, you'll be able to go over to the rest option. And now you can change it to any season that you want, the season of plenty, fallow, or inclemency. And don't worry, we are going to go over all of the multiplayer systems and how to use them later in the video. If that's something that's been confusing you, whether you should be using link party, member list, or squads, we'll talk about that later. And now as you're playing through the main story of the game, you're going to unlock various different NPCs. They're going to help you as you journey through this game. So let's talk about what each one is going to do for you. One of the first and most important NPCs you're going to unlock is going to be Alma. Alma does a lot. She's basically your quest hub in a lot of ways. You'll come, you'll talk to her, and this is where you can do a few different things. From here, if you go over to the last tab, this is where you can change your lobby situation. Let's say you aren't in a lobby, but you want to be in one. You can choose to search for a lobby or create a private lobby or search for a recommended lobby from here. You don't have to actually go all the way back up to the menu system to change your lobby situation if you need to. You can also change your PALICO deployment status. If you don't want your PALICO coming around with you, hey, you could tell him to stand by, stay home. I'm not sure why you would do that, but you know, if you feel like being cruel, you can be. And then you've got post and join quests. This is the one you'll be using the most. Now, this is where you'll come anytime you're not sure what to do next, come here and click assignments. You have an outstanding assignment without the orange check mark. The orange check mark means that you have completed that assignment. The assignment is the main story quest of this game. You want to keep doing an assignment anytime one is available to you. Then you'll just click on it and say begin it, and boom, you're good to go. If you don't have any assignments available, then most likely you have some side quests, those yellow quests that you need to be doing to unlock the next assignment. A lot of the side quests will work is they will give you an optional quest. When you accept them, it'll say, okay, go to Alma and accept the optional quest. So you'll click this and an optional quest will appear here that you can do. A lot of these quests are optional, sometimes not so much though, because you do need to do them to progress certain parts of the game. But you don't have to do every one of these because every monster you run into will appear in here. For example, I've killed a lot of Chotacabra, but I never came in here and did the optional side quest for the Chotacabra because I've never needed to do that. That was never an essential optional quest. Then you've got field survey history. So in here, this is basically a history of the hunts that you've gone on the enemies that you've killed recently or engaged with recently. The primary reason for this page is for you to be able to turn these into investigations if you want to. Now, as you're leveling up, you're not going to use the investigations feature. This is something you're going to use once you get into what is called high rank, when your focus is leveling up the rank of your hunter. So after you complete all of the red assignments, these ones right here, then you're going to start engaging in random hunts around the map. So the purpose of field survey history, you'll be able to turn hunts that you went and engaged in into investigations. And what an investigation does is right here, it's telling us this green symbol means investigation. It's saying it's going to cost 120 guild points to save this as an investigation. And if we do that, let's just click yes. Now, if we come to our investigations, we can come here and it tells us some really important information. On the bottom right side of the screen, we can now hunt this mom down and get those rewards, those bonus rewards 3 times. It says we have 3 hunts left. Whereas if you just went and hunted it, you would only get to get it and its rewards 1 time. Now, you would never make this hunt an investigation because we're not looking for these rewards. So that's where you would use the submenu option down here at the bottom of the screen. It says submenu, right? You use that and we will delete that investigation. Boom. Now that one's gone because we would never want that. We want to use investigations on monsters that are dropping parts that we need. So if you're trying to craft something and it says, oh, you need this one part from this one monster, then you find a hunt for that monster by opening your map, then going to world map. And now you can see all of the hunts that are available in each zone. So this zone has Arkfeld, Tempered Chotacabra, Alpha Dashiguma, Alahara, right? And so on. This one here has a Rathian and Arkfeld, and you can look for the monster that you're trying to kill. Now, it may be that the monster you need to kill for the crafting material that's going to allow you to create your weapon or your armor is not showing up because of what we mentioned earlier about some enemies only showing up during certain times of day. So you might have to do something else for a little while and then check this map again and see if they've showed up. And then once they show up, you can click details and you can pick the one you want to do and you can create your quest and begin your field survey. Or you can save it as an investigation right here, and that's going to allow you to hunt it 3 times back to back for the exact rewards that it's listing right there. It says bonus rewards, right? You're going to get those every time you hunt it. Alternatively, if you begin the field survey now, you can hunt it 4 times because you'll begin the field survey, you'll hunt it, you'll kill it, you'll get all the parts and the rewards. Then you can go to Alma and you can go to field survey history, and that hunt would be right here at the top. And now you could turn it into an investigation to do it 3 more times. So you would get to do that hunt 4 times that way, and you would get all those juicy rewards that it had. Not all hunts are equal, and this is why investigations are so important. Sometimes you'll kill an enemy and the rewards for it will be very minimal. Other times you'll see one of these hunts and the rewards will be massive. There will be tons of rewards for you for doing that hunt. So that's why you save some of them as investigations, because sometimes you'll be doing something else and you'll see really rewarding hunts available. You don't want to let those go, and that's when you will save it as an investigation. But again, that is not until you have completed the campaign, or what is called assignments in this game. You complete all of these. Then you start doing that because you need to farm these enemies over and over to get the materials for them. The next one we have here is event quests. Event quests are something that you can do. These are limited time quests that will occasionally pop up in here. They're not terribly difficult, or well, they're not terribly difficult once you get to endgame. As you can see, these are HR 9 or higher, or Hunter rank 9 or higher. And my character is Hunter rank 100 and something now. So these are very easy for me. But if you do these, you can get unique rewards that you can't get anywhere else in the game, like a piece of gear, for example, that you can unlock and then craft to wear as a cosmetic item, you know, so that it looks like you're wearing it when you're not actually, if you like the way that it looks. So peek in, do these event quests. If you're someone that wants to hunt down those limited time rewards like that, these will definitely be worth your time then. Next, below that, you have lobby member quests. So if you join your friend's lobby, kind of like we talked about earlier, where you can create a lobby and have your friend come, or you can join their lobby, well, this is where you could look and see what quests they've started. So the easiest way to do things with your friends in this game is to have them start a quest. And once they've started it, you'll be able to find it in here, either under lobby member quests or link member quests, depending on how you set it up. And it'll search for any quests that are going on in your lobby, and you can just join them and help them with it. Same thing goes for link member quests. If you've used the link system to group up with your friend instead of the lobby, then you'll search for their quest here. Finally, we have SOS Flare quests. This is for all the people that are not playing this game with a real life friend, but enjoy playing the game with other people. So this is the multiplayer queue system. You click on SOS Flare quests. Then you get to choose a few different things here. You can say target. You can choose one of the many monsters in this game if you want to. So if there's an enemy you know you need to kill because you need the parts for the armor you want to craft or the weapon you want to craft, then you can specify that right there so that only quests featuring that enemy pop up. Then you can do quest difficulty. The difficulty that you're allowed to join is going to be determined by your hunter rank. If your hunter rank is too low, it's not going to let you join the high rank or the 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 star quests here, right? So you're going to be limited by your HR, your hunter rank. Then there's quest type. Do you want to do assignments? Maybe you're questing through the game and you want to do it with someone else because you're stuck. Maybe optional quests, investigations. Investigations are generally going to be the best rewards because people tend to turn the hunts with the best rewards into investigations, like we touched on earlier. They'll see a hunt become available on their map and it has amazing rewards. And so they're like, oh man, I got to save that as an investigation so that I can run it 3 times back to back to get those juicy rewards 3 different times. So this is why typically once you've completed the campaign of this game, you're going to want to come in here and search for investigations, because if you do it like that and you say locale any, right? You pick any unless there's a zone that you specifically need something from. Language, you can choose your language, or you can say worldwide. I don't care if we can communicate. And to be honest, nobody really talks in these games. They communicate with emotes at most, if that. And so you could do worldwide just fine. Although if you join a host on the other side of the world, the ping might not be great. So that's something to consider. And then you've got platform permissions. So do you want to join only people on your platform or all platforms? Either way is fine. Now, SOS Flare search, we hit that button and then boom, you're presented with a ton of options. Now, for people like me, Arkfeld is a very common hunt because as you can see there, the bonus rewards on the right are fantastic. If we come down to these rewards, you can see it's giving ancient weapon fragments rarity 7. That's the highest rarity available in the game at present. And so this is what everybody past hunter rank 41 is looking for. And the reason I say 41 is because you're not allowed to hunt tempered Arcveld before 41. And right there down on the bottom right, it says conditions to join this. Hunter rank 41 or higher. But once you hit 41, you don't really want anything else, because after hunter rank 41, you want to craft your max power ARTIAN weapon, which uses these rarity 7 parts here. And so these are going to be the only thing you want to collect, because you're just going to want to make the best weapon that you can. And tempered Arcveld is among the most difficult fights and the most rewarding fights. And so that's why you'll see a lot of these show up if you search for 8-star hunts. Now, you'll notice that the first 2 hunts that showed up, they're double hunts, right? We hunt 2 enemies. And the reason people save these is look at how many rewards we get on the right there. Tons of them, tons of rewards, all of these rewards. This is so many weapon parts here. Along with that, you're getting 39,960 zenny or gold, or, you know, whatever you want to call that currency, and a ton of guild points and a ton of experience. If you're trying to level up fast, this is how you power level in this game. Do the hunts with 2 powerful enemies in them, and you will get so much experience. You will get a level and a half or more per hunt easily. You just fly through the hunter ranks. So that's what you want to focus on. So when I did this search, these are what came up. Now you'll notice if I click on it now and I try to join, it's going to give me an error. The reason it's giving me the error is because that has already started. That lobby filled up and they're going. So it's not going to let me join. So when you do this, you don't really have the option to take your time to look. If you want to get into that first lobby that popped up with the double hunt, the best ones are always at the front. So you just spam click, because even now I just waited a little bit and it's full. Session is full, right? So you don't have time to even look at it. You just spam click. I'll try it right now. And we're just going to keep spamming. Oh, it filled up before we could get in. We're going to search again. We're going to hit SOS Flare Quest. We're going to go down to Flare Search, and we're just going to spam the accept button. Hopefully get into this before it fills up. There you go. That worked. We had to spam accept to get into the really good one that was at the front of the line there, because everybody's trying to get into those. So you got to hit accept without even looking at it if you really want a chance to get in. Now I'm in this group with 3 other people. We can see their names there on the left. It says I'm in here with SXNE and Medium Chungus and Leo the Almighty. And we would go on this hunt together. It says hunt the tempered Arcveld and hunt the Guardian Dashiguma. I'm going to leave this because I don't want to take up one of their precious spots, so they can have someone else come and join. Return from quests. Yes. But if you stuck around in that game, you would just go get on your mount, let your mount auto run to the boss, which I guess that's something we didn't talk about yet, is that your mount will automatically run towards the boss as soon as you get on it. Whatever monster you're going to be hunting, whatever the objective of your quest is, get on your mount and it should start running to it. If it's not running to it when you get on it, hit the sprint button, whatever that button is for you. On console, it's right bumper. On PC, it is shift, I believe. So you'll get on your mount and just hit sprint, and your mount will start running to whatever destination you've selected. If your mount is running relentlessly when you get on it, a lot of people, you know, they'll get to their destination and the mount just won't stop moving. Well, there's an option. If you don't like the fact that your mount automatically runs places and you want to control it, which, by the way, I don't exactly recommend, because getting around these maps can be quite confusing, because there's paths that you wouldn't expect to be paths, like the fact that I just jumped over here onto this. There's nice shortcuts all over this game that you really wouldn't know exist, but your mount knows, because, you know, he'll auto path to them. I recommend utilizing the auto pathing of the mount, but if you're tired of him running around, look in the top right corner of the screen and it'll tell you how to stop him. On this controller, it says stop is right trigger. So we just hit that, hold it down until he stops. Boom, now he has stopped. Your mount has stopped, right? So if you're tired of your mount running around, not calming down, just hold down that right trigger with the console or whatever the button tells you to push. Now, by far, the most complicated part about this game is the menu system. This game has menus buried within menus, buried within menus, and it also has a lot of redundant menus, which leads to you wondering, which one am I supposed to use for what I'm trying to do? What is the difference between these two? And sometimes there's just redundancy built in. So just pick whichever menu you enjoy using, but there's sometimes more than one way to do something. Like you can change your gear here at the smithy, or you can change your gear at the tent, right? That's totally up to you. So speaking of all of the complicated menus in this game, let's go ahead and talk about one of the first ones you're going to be interacting with a lot. And that is Gemma here. The beautiful Gemma, a fan favorite, absolutely, because she's great at crafting weapons and armor, and for no other reason. So let's talk to her. So I'd like to manage my equipment. That's what you're going to pick. And from here, you're going to be able to to forge and upgrade a weapon, forge and upgrade an armor, or upgrade from the list of weapons or armor that you've already made. That's what upgrade from box means. Or forge or upgrade from your wish list. We'll talk about that. And then as you play the game, you'll unlock the ability to forge and upgrade talismans. These are just charms that you can craft that can give you offensive bonuses, defensive bonuses, or resistances. Let's say you're dying to this enemy that's doing a lot of lightning damage. Well, then you'll go ahead and craft a thunder charm, thunder resistance. They call it a thunder charm and thunder resistance. I think this is a little bit of a translation error because thunder is the sound that lightning makes. Lightning is the electricity that would actually hurt you. Thunder is the sound. And so when the enemy's hurting you, they're hurting you with lightning and you would need lightning resistance, but this game calls it thunder resistance. So I always thought that was a little bit funny. And if it was the thunder hurting you, then your earplugs would protect you. But we'll talk more about earplugs later. Alternatively, you can get an ice charm for ice resistance, fire charm for fire resistance, and so on. So this is a nice way to fill resistance gaps that you're undoubtedly going to have as you're making your way up through the game. But definitely always try to have at least one talisman on once you unlock the ability to craft them here at Gemma, and she'll let you know when you're able to do so. So let's start with the most important thing you're going to interact with early on, and that's going to be crafting your weapons, because this is going to give you massive damage bonuses. So let's say you're making great swords, because that's what I made. The way that this menu works, because this is one of many menus that when you first look at it, it is confusing. And you get in here and you have no idea, which one should I make? It's a little bit of paralysis by analysis, a lot of overload here where you aren't sure which one is the best one. And the answer is whichever one does the most damage. Really, when you're going through here, all of these weapons are very temporary. So the best one that you have the materials to craft is the one you should craft. If you have the materials to craft it and it does more damage than the weapon you're using, craft it. So because this is a little bit confusing, the way this is broken down into is on the left, you see it says Expedition Tree, Rathalos Tree, Ore Tree. It's telling you which boss you kill to get the materials for that weapon. That's it. That's all that is on the left. Now, the other thing to be aware of is from left to right, the weapons get better. So the farther right the weapon, the better it is. So basically what you would come in here and do is look for the weapon that is farthest to the right that you have the materials to craft, and there's a 90% chance that's going to be the best item for you to use for the time being. Like I mentioned, these are temporary anyway. It's just as you're leveling through the story, so don't overthink it. Craft the best one that you can. If you've gone a while without upgrading your weapon, it's probably because you got unlucky when you killed one of these bosses and you didn't get the drops that you needed to make the weapon. And so what you could do, let's say you wanted to craft this weapon right here, this Albereth wing. Well, in order to craft this, I would first have to craft this. That's why it has the lock there. I can't make this until I make this. We need to get a flame sack. Now, because this is on the Guardian Rathalos tree.
You're saying it wrong. Wingardium Leviosa.
That means Guardian Rathalos is going to drop that flame sack for us. So we would go kill Guardian Rathalos and hopefully get that flame sack. That's how we would make this weapon if we wanted to. Another thing we could do to make that process easier for us to track is we could go to the sub menu, add this item to wish list, and now it will track that for us. It puts that little pin in the top right corner of that weapon, and anytime we get a piece that we needed to craft this weapon, it'll pop up on our screen saying, hey, you've got 1 of 2 Guardian Rathalos webbings now. Now you've got 2 of 2 webbings, but you still are missing the flame sack. And then when you get the flame sack, it'll say, hey, you got the flame sack. You have everything you need to make this weapon. And then you can come to Gemma, manage your equipment, tell her, I want to create something from my wish list. And then you would come here to the item here and just craft it. And you would have all the materials because you came back after you got them all. But if you're ever not sure where that crafting material comes from, look at what line of the tree it is on and just follow it left. Right now, this is the Zuwu tree, right? So the materials for these items are going to come from Zuwu. You would open up your map, go to your world map, and you would look for Zuwu. Here's Zuwu. So we would be able to go and do this hunt and hopefully get that Zuwu material we needed for that weapon. Easy peasy. Now, I will say, because these are temporary weapons, I wouldn't spend too much time farming out every single weapon in here, because the duration of time that each of these weapons is relevant is relatively short compared to the weapons that you're going to use in the end game. Now, another thing that you can do once you've crafted a weapon is you can come to the upgrade list and you can upgrade a weapon that you've already crafted. So if you've crafted a weapon, you can come in here and you can check and see, hey, can I upgrade the weapon that I made to the next tier? And sometimes you'll be able to do that. You'll be able to just come right in here and upgrade what you already have to the next tier, and just takes a few materials. It tells you what materials you need right there. Easy. So that's how you upgrade weapons in the early game. The armor system works very similarly. So you've got 2 types of armor in this game. You got low rank and then you got high rank. When you first start the game, while you're going through the story of the game, while you're going through the assignments, those red quests, you're going to be collecting low rank armor. And generally speaking, the lower down on this list, the better it is. So if you can craft something lower on the list than what you're wearing, it's going to be better. It's going to have more defense than what you're wearing, and it's generally going to have some better skills, and it's just generally going to be better for you and do a better job of keeping you alive as you progress through the game. If you find that you're dying a lot, one of the most important things you can do is come in here and craft stuff that's lower down on the list than you were currently wearing to definitely increase your defense and hopefully increase your elemental resistances as well. Then once you beat the campaign, you're going to start creating this high rank armor here, and exactly the same, the lower down on this list, the more defense that the armor is going to have. So you'll generally want to create things that are lower on this list than what you're wearing whenever you can. However, some of these items require fairly rare materials that are not super easy to get. So don't just craft something because you can, you know, until you've got more materials than you need. Kind of do this strategically so that you're not wasting your materials here. Like this armor here requires Hunter Symbol 3. When you first get into high rank, those are going to be pretty rare to come by. Eventually you'll have way more than you need. So just kind of keep that in mind when you're choosing what to craft. Now, another thing that you'll notice in here that confuses a lot of people is we have 4 different ones of the same armor here. We have Arcveld Alpha, and there's 2 rows of that. That's male and female. The top row is male, the bottom row is female. Then we have Arcveld Beta down here, right? The top row is male, the bottom row is female. That's what the difference is between the top and the bottom of each one. The difference between alpha and beta, right? It's got the A, and this one has the B in the name, Arcveld A, Arcveld B. The difference between the two is that the beta has more decoration slots in it and less skills attached to it. So if we look at the gloves here, these gloves come with equipment skills, convert element, and recovery speed. We go down to beta, it only gives us convert element. But if we look at the slots above, it says slots. You've got 2 slots that are tier 2 and 1 slot that is tier 1. These gloves only have 2 slots that are tier 2. They do not have that 3rd tier 1 slot. So typically what people do is they craft the beta so that they can have more control over what skills their armor has, right? The decorations, we haven't really talked about them yet, so don't worry if you don't know what those are, but they are items that you slot into your gear that give you skills. And if you have more slots in your gear, that means you have more control over what skills you have. And skills in this game are just basically abilities or buffs that proc while you're playing. You don't actually actively cast abilities or actively cast these skills. It's more like when you take damage, you get this buff. If you do X, then you get this buff. If you do Y, then you get this buff, that sort of thing. But these skills can make your character incredibly powerful when you've combined the right set of them. So that's the difference between the alpha armor and the beta armor, the top row of each armor, the male and the female, right? That's the difference between all of those. Then once you've created armor, another thing you can do is you can level up the armor. So when I'm hovering over this armor here, you can see that it says upgrade armor, then it says level 4 out of 7, defense 72. When you upgrade armor, the only thing that changes is the defense. So it's just going to give it more defense, which is your primary stat. When it comes to taking damage, the more defense you have, the less damage you're going to take. It's a very important stat, and if your defense is too low, you will get punished on the battlefield against some of these more difficult enemies. If one of these bosses is really hammering you, take into consideration what element of damage it's doing and make sure that you're not sitting at -10 of that elemental resistance in the bottom right. Right now, my character has -8 dragon resistance, and so I would want to be careful fighting an enemy or a dragon that's putting out a massive amount of dragon damage. I'm going to feel that. So that covers how we craft our weapons and our armor through the early game and the mid game, and then eventually you're going to get to the part of the game where you're making Artian weapons. Artian weapons? I'm not sure how they want to pronounce this word. So I'm going to go with Artian. So this is where you create your Artian weapons. The way these work is you're going to go on those hunts like I was showing you earlier. We look at these materials, look at those. Ancient weapon fragments, ancient weapon fragments. Those fragments are what we use to create our Artian weapons. That's why people want these so bad. It's so they can create their Artian weapons, their best in slot weapons. These are the best weapons you can make in the game right now. So we talk to Gemma, we say, hey, I want to manage my gear, and then I want to forge an Artian weapon, great sword. And the way this works is this is a blade, this is a blade, this is a tube, right? You can see that text right there on each one, blade, tube. And that means you're going to have to put a blade in. So we click it and it's only going to highlight the ones that we can put in. We scroll far enough. These are grayed out because these are not blades. These are tubes. So what we would do is we pick a blade, and a tube. Ideally, what you're going to want to do is pick the same element for each of them. So a really potent mix is going to be dragon damage. This is really effective in this game. The hardest enemies in the game, like Tempered Arcveld, he takes extra damage from dragon damage. That's his weakness. Very popular element as a result. So you might take dragon damage if you have access to it. And then to the right of the dragon damage, it says attack infusion or affinity infusion. Attack infusion is increasing the damage that your hits do. Affinity infusion is increasing the amount of crit chance that you have. Think of affinity like crit chance. It says 10% on the top right there. It says what I've made so far. If we put this in there, it's going to have 10% crit chance. And you can see in real time it changing the outcome of the weapon in the top right there, right? If I take this one, it's 936 attack damage, 5% crit chance, 5% affinity. Take this one, it goes down to 912, but we get 10% crit chance. So you would pick your desired combination that you want to go with. So let's say we were going to go with dragon, and then for the tube, dragon, attack, right? And then we craft it like this. So we've picked the 3 that we want. We've got 1 affinity and 2 attacks. Then we would click forge. Are you sure you want to use these materials to craft this? And we say yes. Boom. There, it just made a rarity 8. These materials come all the way from rarity 1 to rarity 8. The lower star rating, the monster that you killed to get the material, the lower rarity level it is, and the lower the rarity of the ARTIAN weapon that it's going to make. Do you want to equip this? No. Now what we can do, after you've made your ARTIAN weapon, it's not done. Now you can upgrade it. So then after we made it, we would go to reinforce. Go to reinforce, come down to the one we just made so we can demonstrate how this works. And so the way this works is you put these materials here into the weapon, or a calcite, argisite, speclite, right? The lower it is, the more that it levels it up. So if you put one of these in here, it puts 300 points, right? Whereas if you put one of these, the bar doesn't even move. You can't even see it. It will only put 20 points in there. So 20, 100, 200, 300. So auric calcite is definitely the one you want to collect, but it doesn't matter which one you use. It's not like if you use drearsite, it's going to make your weapon worse. It's just going to take way more drearsite to level it up than it takes auric calcite. So you can use all of these if you have all of them to get it to the highest level that you possibly can. It takes 50 auric calcite to level it up from level 1 to level 5. Now, when you do that, let's say we put these on here, right? You see on the right side there, it says reinforcement bonus, question mark, question mark, question mark, question mark. You're going to get a random bonus added to your ARTIAN weapon every time it levels up. So now we got it to level 2 and we got 2 random bonuses. So we have just enough to get it to level 3.9. We weren't quite able to get it to 4 there, but we would hit reinforce now. It says it's going to use all of those points. Are you sure you want to proceed? Now the answer here is yes. And the reason it's yes is because you get all of these materials back, all of these upgrade materials, the drearsite, the speclite, the argisite, and the auric calcite. You get all of these materials back when you dismantle this weapon. So let's say you don't like the outcome, you get all of your upgrade materials back, but you lose the 3 initial ingredients that we used to create the weapon in the first place, right? The ones that had the dragon damage on it, we would lose those. We don't get those back. So that's the loss for this attempt, but these we do get back. So there's no harm in upgrading it and seeing how it goes once you have the weapon. So there we go. We reinforced it and it pops up just briefly there. It's almost too fast. So now we're going to look at it and see what we got. So when you want to see the results of it, you can tab through the equipment info. Right there it says equipment info. It says left trigger, right trigger. So we're going to tab until we see reinforcement bonus. And it looks like we got affinity boost, sharpness boost, and attack boost. Not bad at all. Whether or not this was good would really be determined by what we got on the last 2 and what we were hoping for. Did we want more crit on our elements, or did we want more base attack damage? I definitely would not want more than 1 sharpness, however, right? Because my weapon is already plenty sharp and I'm not looking to make it sharper. That's what she said. No. So this is where the RNG comes into the RTN system. Sometimes you'll craft it and upgrade it and you'll like the results. Other times you'll feel like, hey, I could do better. And so when you get the tubes and the blades and everything you need to craft the base version of it again, you do that and then you try upgrading it again and hope you get better results the next time. And that's the end game weapon progression. So now you know everything there is to know about the RTN weapons. You just come here, create your weapon. You know how to get these materials now, right? If you want the rarity 8 items, then you simply open your map and you look for 7-star hunts and above. You see that tempered Gypceros is only 5-star. So we change, here we go, tempered Nuudra. That is a 7-star. So if we look at the details on that, we can see we're getting those rarity 7 ingredients that we need to make the max level weapon. If you can't do 7-star hunts yet, that's because these require HR 41 or higher and you are below that. Okay, now speaking of the auric calcite and the other ingredients that you're gonna need to upgrade your weapons, this is where the smelting foundry comes in. This is located in Oil Well Basin in the base camp area. So you come here, you'll spawn in over here in the base camp and you'll run right over here. Once you've unlocked this, that is, you'll have to progress far enough in the main story quest to get this here. And here you can smelt armor spheres and you can smelt ore. You can smelt the armor spheres in order to upgrade your armor. What you can do is you can create heavy armor spheres by combining materials that you don't need. You'll have a lot of duplicates, a lot of parts that you're never going to craft. You know, maybe they're lower level gear, lower rarity, and you're well beyond that. You don't need it anymore. So it's not good for anything except except turning into armor spheres so that you can upgrade your gear. So one thing you can do in the top there, it says sort by default currently. So you can change that to sort by amount. And this way, all of the valuable stuff ends up at top, and you can look for the valuable items that you're not going to use if you would like to, so that you don't have to spend your entire life trying to get enough items in here to get some of these spheres. But as for the Artian weapon we talked about and the orichalcite that we're going to need to upgrade it, you come here to smelt ore. Here you can see the 3 different types, right? And really you're just going to want to do the orichalcite if you can. And similarly, you would combine ingredients to create the orichalcite. And this is what I would primarily use these ingredients for. I wouldn't really worry about the armor spheres. If I were you, I would focus on creating your orichalcite until your weapon is maxed out. This is something you only have to do once per weapon that you're going to main. So if you're going to be a greatsword main, then you only have to do it once if that's the only weapon you're ever going to use, right? And then once you have enough orichalcite to max out your weapon, you don't ever need to do it again because you can always dismantle that weapon, get all the orichalcite back, and put it into whatever weapon you make next. So you would come here to, combine ingredients, make the orichalcite. Like I mentioned, you need 50 orichalcite to max out your weapon, or as many as you can, plus however many you have of the other ingredients. Finally, you have the festival shares. Right before I hit record, I accidentally opened this up, and it doesn't let you open it up without grabbing them out. So I can't show you the rewards that I got, but basically it was a smattering of these ingredients here. So check in with him and grab your festival shares, and occasionally he'll give you orichalcite and argisite and speclite and so on, right? He'll give you those ingredients. Just randomly, he gets them over time. He'll accrue them, and you can just come here to pick up your latest bounty of them. And that covers the smelting foundry. He's what you're going to use to get the crafting materials to upgrade your Artian weapon. That's his main purpose. Once you've crafted your Artian weapon, come here, you make your orichalcite, then you dump that orichalcite into your weapon to upgrade it to level 5. So now you fully understand Gemma and all of the crafting, right? That's it. It's really just making weapons. At first, you're in this weapon tree here, and farther to the right it is, the more damage it's likely to do, and the better it will be for you. So you're just going to keep going right on this list, making the rightmost thing that you can, and that's going to result in you having the best weapon that you can for that moment. It's very simple, but the sheer number of weapons here just makes it feel a little bit confusing. But then as soon as you unlock Artian weapons, you're going to start crafting those first out of the lower rarity materials, just so you can get your first Artian weapon, and then eventually out of these rarity 8 materials that you get. And you're going to feel free to upgrade your low level Artian weapons because you get all the upgrade materials back. So that's your weapons. Then your armor, we talked about low rank, high rank. The lower on the list, the better it tends to be for both. In terms of its defense, you may choose to mix and match some of the gear with less defense to take advantage of the skills that come with them. Maybe you're looking for a set that has more offensive power, and so you take something with a little less defense higher up here on the list. One of these rarity 7 or even maybe one of these blue rarity 6 pieces of gear, right? If they happen to have the equipment skills attached to them that you would like to have. But when in doubt, lower is going to be better for you, at least better at keeping you alive. One thing I didn't touch on was that you could also forge PALICO equipment in here. So you can come in here and craft your PALICO some gear. It works exactly the same way. I don't notice a tremendous difference when my PALICO has good gear versus bad gear. So feel free to deck your PALICO out with the best gear that you can, but certainly make sure that you've used the materials you need from that boss before you start giving them to your PALICO's armor. All right, so that covers Gemma. Wow, that was a lot there, wasn't it? But what about the other NPCs you're going to run into in town? So let's talk about Arthur. He is a provisions stockpiler. So when you talk to him, the first choice you're going to have to make is purchase or sell. So you can sell things to him, you can buy things from him, right? The next one is when you buy stuff from him, do you want it to go to your item pouch or do you want it to go to your item box? Do you want to go to your current inventory or do you want it to go to your stash at your camp? Almost certainly you're going to want to send these items to camp. So make sure you choose that. Otherwise you won't be able to buy very many of whatever you're coming here to buy because you can only hold so many on you. For instance, if you're trying to make traps, you would only be able to hold 2 traps, but you're going to need loads of traps, right? So you would want to be able to buy way more than 2 at a time. And that's why it's very useful to come down to item box when you talk to this NPC. And here you'll buy things from him. Let's quickly just go over what some of these materials do and when you might want them. It looks like a long list, but it should go pretty quickly here. We're just going to cover the ones that are important. So potion is obvious. Antidote you're going to use when you want to cure yourself of poison. A cool drink, you use this when you're walking on lava. If you're in a zone where it's it's really hot. You'll know it because it feels like you're in the inside of a volcano. That's a good time to drink a cool drink. Your health bar will be red and it'll be losing health ever so slowly while you're in that area, unless you drink a cool drink or unless you have the adaptability skill in a piece of your armor. Adaptability just essentially makes you immune to hot and cold environmental effects. So a hot environment will slowly drain your health. A cold environment will slowly drain the size of your stamina bar. If you're in a cold environment, you'll drink a hot drink. So if you're ever in a fight and you notice your stamina bar is getting smaller and smaller and smaller and smaller, it's because you needed to drink a hot drink. So make sure you always have some hot drinks on you. So when the game takes you into a very cold area, you can toss one back. In fact, I'll go over all of the essential items to carry with you everywhere after this. Next, we've got wild jerky. This is just something that you could eat on the battlefield. It'll cure bleeding and it'll increase your natural healing. So this will just give you a little buff, makes your heals stronger when you get healed by either your PALICO or by yourself. Next, we've got life powder. This is going to heal you and anybody nearby. So you can use this to help a friend that gets knocked down. I haven't personally had the opportunity to use this almost ever. I haven't really used wild jerky or life powder at all, nor have I used small barrels, barrel bombs. I do occasionally use a large barrel bomb or even a mega barrel bomb, but even those I don't use that often. I haven't found them to be terribly necessary. Next, we have trap tools. This we use loads of because we're going to use this to make the pitfall traps and to make the shock traps. This is what we're going to do to capture bosses or monsters when they get down to around 30% health. Their health is going to get low. We're going to capture them to save time, to make our hunts more efficient, to shave about 30% of the hunt's duration off of the fight. So these traps are very useful. This is where you get the trap tools. You're going to need loads of these. So as you can see, they don't cost very much. You can look at the Zenny that I have. I have over 1 million Zenny and I can buy 20 of these trap tools for 4,000 and it only uses 2 of them per trap. Dung pods you'll use a lot when you're going through the campaign of the game because you're not able to fight more than one enemy at a time at that point, especially. And so you'll use these dung pods if the game tells you to go kill a enemy, but then there happens to be 2 of that enemy right next to each other, right? So you fight one and the other one engages you. So it's now a 2v1. Your dung pod, if you shoot each of them with a dung pod, they don't want to be anywhere near each other because now they both smell awful. And so they head off in different directions, allowing you to fight one-on-one with the one that you choose. Then there's just a ton of different types of ammo. These are only going to be relevant to you if you're using a weapon that uses ammunition. So that's what Arthur does. Arthur is one of 2, I would say, merchants that sells you things. And the other merchant is this guy right here, Santiago. His ship will show up with supplies from time to time. He won't always be here, but once you get far enough into the game, he'll show up every once in a while. And you can talk to him. You say, I like to see what you've got. I want to purchase some goods from you. And you can look at what he's brought with him. So this time he's brought some mega armor skin, some mega demon drug. Demon drug is really good in this game. It increases your attack power, so it causes you to do more damage. He's got some crafting materials, and interestingly, he sells full weapons. Now, these aren't the best weapons in the game, but they're by no means horrible weapons. This one right here, the Cuckoo Pick, this is a really good weapon just about until they make their Artian weapons. So it's a pretty late game weapon as far as the story goes. And he's just straight up selling the whole thing to you. You don't have to go farm the boss until you get it and all of that stuff. Very interesting. So if you want to start collecting all the weapons, you know, you could check in with him and you could do that. You can also request goods. So you can choose from a few different options here as far as what you want him to show up with. You could say any and just bring back anything, a little bit of everything that you're capable of bringing me. Or you could choose medicinal items or equipment materials or miscellaneous, mostly comprised of special items such as equipment, hunting items, and trade-in items. So there you go. And you'll notice that he uses guild points, not Zenny. So this is one of the ways that you can use your guild points, right? You can use guild points to save hunts as investigations so that you can run them 3 more times. You can use guild points to buy items from Santiago. You can use guild points to change the time of day or change the season, right? You can come in here to your tents. You can tab over to this tab and click rest. And then here it says it's going to cost 300 points and we could change it to any season we want. We could change it to any time of day we want so that we could farm a specific item if we wanted to. Also, sometimes you just want to come in here and change it to something that it's not because you're trying to play the game. You want to do some good hunts, but when you open up the map, well, all the hunts suck, right? You're just like, wow, there's no great tempered fights. There's no double fights that I want to do. I'm just not satisfied with these. So rather than run a bad one, you spend a little bit of your hunter points to reset all of them. And that way you can hopefully find a better hunt that's more worth your time to go and run. You don't have to do anything out of the ordinary. primary to get guild points. You'll get them constantly as you're doing quests and killing monsters. Now, since we're talking about NPCs, let's go ahead and talk about the rest of them here. Another NPC you unlock pretty early in the game is Tom here, Ingredient Center. All he does is give you rations. We talk to him, and then on the right side of the screen, you'll see it say, oh, you got some rations. There it is. Boom. He gave me 11 rations. He gives me more rations than I will ever need. But I guess that's the game's way of making sure you never go hungry in this game, because it is important that you always have a meal ticking in this game, even if it's a bad one comprised solely of rations. Now, the next one we've got is Konut. Support desk. If we talk to him, there's a few different things in here, some really random stuff, but the main one that you're going to want to interact with on a regular basis is going to be this one right here. View and complete limited bounties. You'll come in here, and every few days this will reset. Right now there's a day and 20 hours left. You can see in the top right before this resets, and I can do more of these. The reward for doing this is armor spheres, melding tickets, and lots of guild points, right? These are something that you typically do passively as you're playing the game. And so really all you have to do is make sure you come in and check that you've grabbed your rewards for completing these. Like this one here at the top, it said complete 5 quests rank 1 star or higher. So any end game activity is really going to accomplish that fast. And this next one was complete 3 quests in the forest. Real easy to accidentally do these and then just come by and collect the rewards once you've done that. And that's going to be Konut's primary purpose. Then we have Tech, the pop-up camp Meowster. All right, this guy here is going to give you access to all of your camps in the game. So as you're playing the game, you're going to make pop-up camps. You'll walk by areas and it'll say, hey, you can make a pop-up camp here. And you can either choose to put it there or not. In the moment, it's not that important, because even if you don't put it up then, you can talk to him and you can put it up from here. You don't have to be next to that spot to put a camp up. So if you have discovered a camp, but you weren't able to put a camp up, or you forgot to put a camp up or whatever, you can always come to him and put it up. And there's 3 different types of campsites. You've got safe. These ones will never be destroyed by enemies. You've got insecure, sometimes destroyed by enemies. And then you've got dangerous. These will frequently be destroyed by monsters that are walking around in that area. It'll just so happen a monster will spawn like this one right here, and they'll see your tent and they'll just kind of kick it over and they'll break it. But don't worry, it respawns again in 10 minutes. So it's not the end of the world if that happens. It can just be kind of inconvenient if it happens to happen when it was a time that you wanted to use that specific tent, but not really a big deal. It's usually worth the hassle because sometimes, like this one right here, happens to be right next to a very valuable resource. So if you're farming that resource, you can teleport right to it when the tent is available and grab your resource in seconds rather than, having to run for a minute or 2 to get to it. When you first start the game, you'll only be able to put a few tents in each zone. So as you can see, they're split up by zone here. You got Windward Plain, Scarlet Forest. But then as you play the game and you complete more quests and more side quests, you're going to unlock the ability to have additional camps in each of these zones. So eventually you'll be able to have more camps than you need, frankly, in each zone. In addition to being able to manage where your tents are located, you can customize your tents. You can come down here to edit pop-up camps, Windward Plains, and you can customize the tent. So we customize it. You can change the colors of it if you want to. Right there, and right, see, it's changing the color of the tent. Very nice. You can make it look however you want to. And you can come down to camp gear options, and you can add stuff, out in front if you'd like to, and make it feel a little cozier. So that's Tech. Beyond that, you have the squad information counter. This is where you can handle squads. You can manage your squads. You can join a squad if you'd like to. You can do a conditional search, or you can create a new one for yourself. And then in this tent here are 2 NPCs. They're going to ask you, basically, they're going to alternate back and forth. They're going to ask you to go out and collect endemic life. So that's the harmless creatures out in the wild. The little lizards, the little birds, right? And you see a parrot. That's what this game is calling endemic life. It's the little animals, not the big monsters that you fight, but the little ones that are just passively existing in this place. So it's a little bit of a fun chain of quests that you do. And the way you do those is you use your net. So if we scrolled over on our wheel right here, capture net. So we would use this to capture things. Now this net is actually really handy, so it's worth taking a second to talk about it. This net can capture birds, it can capture lizards, it can capture any small creature you can capture with this net. It can even capture insects. But perhaps most interestingly is you can use it to capture fish as well. So for instance, you'll get a quest at some point in the game that says, hey, capture a vigor wasp. So that's when you would use your net to capture the vigor wasp for your Palico. Actually, he's the one that's going to ask you to do this quest so that he can be a better healer for you. This is how you do it. You pull out your net, you aim with the lower left trigger on your controller if you're using a controller, and then you fire it with the right trigger, the lower one, boom, like that. And now you'll see it pops up on screen on the right there, Vigor Wasp captured. This is going to give you some guild points, and if you had a quest where you needed to capture one, it's going to give you credit for doing that, and it's going to add it into your little diary of collected monsters that you've got going on in this game. All right, now that brings us to fishing. So on the wheel down here in the bottom right, you're going to go to your fishing rod and pull it out. And if you go to an area where there's fish or where fish should be and there are no fish, pull out the fishing rod, and that tends to help spawn them in. And then also another thing you're going to want to take into account is the type of bait. So you'll be able to select the type of bait over here on the right side. The left bumper will pull up this menu here, and we'll go ahead and try the emerald jitterbait. See if we can get something to bite here with that. Can't remember what these guys liked over here. It's been a long time. So we'll toss this in, and then you just kind of dip it like this, and you hope one of the fish decides to bite. And there you go, jiggle it, get his attention. Oh, he wants it. Oh, and he bit, and then we're gonna pull him in, just like that. So as always, look in the top right, and it tells you what all the buttons are that you need to press, right? So we've got cast is right trigger, remove is X, and dash RB or LS. So we're gonna throw this out there, and then that changes. Quick reel. So you would want to go left or right if a fish bites it, and it's a big fish, right? And if a big fish starts swimming left, then you lead it left. And if it swims right, then you gotta aim right and lead it right. Otherwise, you'll put too much tension on the pole and it'll snap the line. So lead the fish if it's a big one. If it's going left, go left. If it's going right, go right. And then when you can, reel it in with your right trigger. But the first thing you have to do, no matter what type of fish, big or small, is you have to land it. So as soon as you see it looking, get ready, and boom, you have to pull that right trigger so it sets the hook. If you don't do that, he'll just get away. So that's everything there is to know about fishing. Make sure to use the right bait for the right fish, or else you're going to end up really disappointed when it never bites. And make sure if it's a big fish, lead it left if it's swimming left, or else you're going to break your line and he's going to get away. Now, if you're someone that enjoys fishing, there's actually some really powerful weapons that can be made from the fishing quest line. I think the most common situation is that everybody ends up with their quest log looking like this. You've got 2 quests unfinished, right? When you get to the end of the game, and that's going to be the fishing quest line and then catching the endemic species quest line, where it sends you out to just catch lots of little creatures, and this one's for fishing. The fishing one takes a lot of patience, so neither of these have to be done. If you don't find yourself enjoying these, just skip them. It is okay. You can come back to it later when you're bored or you need to change a pace. That's fine. But if you do decide to do the fishing one, there is a really powerful weapon for each weapon type that comes from the fishing, and it is substantially stronger than anything else you can get at that time. So if we look at the weapons, great sword, we come down here to the spear tuna tree, right? There are some really powerful weapons that are quite a bit more powerful than anything else we had at that level, because it's giving a whopping 600 water elemental damage. This one here giving a whopping 700 water elemental damage, right? This is just the base unupgraded version of this weapon. It's a really powerful weapon, actually. Really impressive. To get that, you could just follow this quest line from Kanya here. Kanya is located here in Scarlet Forest inside of the base camp. You just run over to the back of the base camp. You'll see a little puddle of water. You'll see her over here happily fishing, and she'll give you quests and a lure, catch your first fish, and she'll even give you a hint as to where that fish might be located. You know, maybe in a cave underground in this zone or something like that, and she'll tell you which lure to use, and then you go there, you do it, you get the fish, you come back. The thing to be aware of with this quest line is you cannot cheese it with your net, okay? She'll know that you are a dirty little cheater. She won't give you credit for catching the fish if you don't use your fishing rod to catch them. She likes to see authentic fish catching, okay? Just to be aware of. Mission complete. But if you come and you talk to her, she's asking me to catch a whopper. Now, as you've noticed, we've started to get a lot of NPCs out in the wild that we've been collecting, right? We've been doing side missions, and now we've got NPCs in every zone that are gathering materials for us. Now we're gonna have to go back to that zone to talk to them to collect those materials. We've got the festival going on in Oilwell. That's getting materials that we would have to go pick up. Got the NPCs in Windward and Scarlet that we'd have to go pick up the materials they're randomly gathering for us now. Or we can just come to Nata, who says they'll be the liaison between us and those people. So it's a one-stop shop for all the NPCs that we've unlocked. We come here and do item trade, and we can trade with any of the NPCs that we've unlocked that have trades for us. You'll find special ingredients out in the wild, and you can come here and trade them them for rare ingredients that you will need for crafting really special meals or for crafting upgrades or for crafting decorations. Lots of good things can be found in here. So that's the item trade. Generally, these items on the left side of this list, the ones that you're turning in to get the item on the right side of the list, if we look at the map, you'll see some of these items have question marks. There you go. There's one with a question mark. So if you grab that, what you're getting is the items that you can trade for other items from these NPCs here. Those are the question mark items. Okay. Now we've got material retrieval. We talked about the guys collecting the materials. We come here and we can retrieve them. I really wish there was a retrieve all button, but you've got to go to each one individually for now, because the developers of this game, if they like anything in this world, they don't like it as much as they like making you spend time in this menu system. And that, I believe, is why the menu system in this game is so layered and so convoluted, and why each step has so many button presses attached to it. If you know, you know, and if you don't know, you'll know soon. Okay. So now we've covered just about everything all the way up until the end game. Now, the one thing we haven't touched on yet that is really important and also pretty confusing for a lot of people is going to be your skills or your decorations that you slot into your armor to get skills. So if we come to Gemma here and we say, I want to manage my equipment, change equipment right here. And on the bottom down there, it says right here, it says edit decorations. So we push that button, boom. Now we see all the decorations that we have slotted into our armor. So it's not immediately obvious what any of this means for a new player, so this can be kind of confusing. So let's talk about it. There's 3 different types of slots in your gear. There's a tier 1 slot, this one right here, the tier 2 slot, this one right here, and the tier 3 slot, this one right here. The difference between them is visible, right? So this one only has 1 diamond in the bottom. It holds tier 1 decorations. This one right here has 2 diamonds in the bottom. It holds tier 2 and below decorations. This one has 3 diamonds. It holds tier 3 and below decorations, right? So ideally you have as many tier 3 jewel slots as possible. This is going to give you the most flexibility when it comes to choosing which jewels to put into your gear. The higher the tier of that slot, the better. Now, what does that mean? If we look at, this is an empty tier 2 slot right here. It's got nothing in it. So if we look at that, you see right here, there's attack jewel 2, and then in brackets, it says 2. The in brackets number is the tier number that this is. So this tier 2 could not go in this tier 1 slot, right? It can only hold tier 1. So when you click on a tier 1 slot, you're only going to see tier 1 and below jewels. If you click on a tier 2 slot, you're only going to see tier 2 and below jewels. If you click on a tier 3 slot, you'll see all the jewels, starting with the tier 3 ones, okay? Now, a tier 3 jewel does not mean it's giving you 3 levels of that skill. So attack boost can potentially have 5 levels, right? 1, 2, 3, and then there's 2 blank ones here. And down here, it tells you what attack boost will give you if you have each level, right? So I've got a tier 3, so you get +3 attack, 5, 7, and then 2% +8, and 4% +4 for the last level here. So what you could do is you could put a jewel that has 3, like this one, and then you could put a jewel that has 2 for a total of 5, but it would take up 2 slots to get there. Or maybe you're wearing some gear that gives you the last 2 slots, because gear comes with skills as well, right? So your gear has skills on it and your decorations have skills on it, and you add those up to meet the bonuses that you want to meet. That's the whole goal with these decorations, is to get the ones you want. So if we look at this one right here, here's a jewel or a decoration, right? And it is tier 2, but it only has 1 Horn Maestro slot. Now, it is kind of confusing. This is another system in this game where the menu is more confusing than it needs to be, because the names of the jewels are not the same as the name of the buff. But fortunately, you can toggle the name skill. You'll see Sonorous Jewel, but you'll be like, what does Sonorous Jewel do? What does that mean? And you can toggle the name skill and you can see it's Horn Maestro. And that kind of helps you understand that, oh, it's a horn buff for the hunting horn. That's a weapon in the game. That makes sense, right? So definitely take advantage of toggling the names here, because if you do that, this is much more intuitive right here. So now you understand how you put the jewels in. You click on here and you put the best tier 2 jewel that you can into a tier 2 spot. Sometimes, especially in the beginning, you won't always have a tier 2 jewel to put in your tier 2 slot, you know, especially a relevant one. You might have a tier 2 jewel, but it's not one that benefits you. So that's okay. You can tab over until you get to a tier 1 that you want to use, and you can slap that in. If you're ever not sure what a jewel does, hover over it and read read the description over here. First, it's going to be really overwhelming because there are a lot of jewels, but eventually it'll make a lot of sense because even though there's a lot of jewels, only a small handful of them are going to be relevant to your character, your weapon, your builds, or your play style. Now, the great thing about jewels is you can take them out anytime you want. You can put it in, you can take it out, you can put it into a piece of gear that you replace, and then you can put it into the next piece of gear that you replaced it with, right? So don't be afraid to just slap in a jewel into your gear. Don't leave the slots empty because anything is better than nothing. Just put something in there. If it looks remotely helpful, just slap it into your gear as you're playing through the game, as you're leveling up. You can always take it out and put it into the next piece of gear. You're not bound to it. It's not stuck in that gear. You can't waste these jewels. Don't worry. Just use them, okay? That's a mistake I see a lot of players making. They hold off putting these jewels into their gear thinking that maybe it'll be stuck there or they might mess it up. No, don't worry. Put them in. You can always take them out, put them into the next piece of gear. No harm, no foul. So the next logical question is, I know what the jewels do. I know how to use them, right? You just come to Gemma, you tell her I want to change my equipment, and then you click edit decorations, whatever that button is for you. You can just click edit decorations, and then you just click on the ones you want to change out and what you want to change them to. But how do you get decorations? I'm glad you asked. So the way we get decorations is we're going to open the map, and it's just like all the other endgame materials. You do hunts. This hunt right here. Do we see this diamond and this diamond? This diamond here says we're getting rarity 6. That's the highest rarity of Ancient Orb Sword. That means it's decorations for your sword or jewels for your sword. The jewels, I should have mentioned, are sword specific or armor specific. So you can't put sword jewels into your armor and you can't put armor jewels into your sword, right? So they have two different ones. The yellow one is for the sword and the blue one is for the armor. So when you're looking for jewels, you're ideally going to look for hunts that have these two symbols right here because those are what are going to give you the jewels that you will potentially be able to put into your gear. But that's not the only way to get them. That is one way to get them. Another way is to head to Suja Peaks once you've unlocked this NPC here. Now, this NPC has varying degrees of usefulness throughout the game because some of what they can do unlocks at 50 and some of what they can do unlocks at Hunter rank 100. So depending on when you come here, the list of things they'll be able to do for you will be either bigger or smaller, right? So the first thing you can do is WYVERIAN melding. You can come in here and you can create ancient orbs and ancient armor. These are the two things you're going to want to create, right? Because these are the best ones. These are the highest rarity. You're only ever really going to want to make these. Don't waste your materials on the lower level ones because you're going to pass through the levels of relevance for those lower ones way too fast. You don't want those. You want these ones. So go for this. And what you can do is you can convert items that you find in this game into points that you put towards buying ancient orbs, right? So let's do a gold melding ticket here. This is one of the best ways to get these right now. We'll put that there and click meld. Yes. Now it's creating 20 of those for me and it gives me 20 random ones and I can look and see what we got here. Oh, we got stream/focus. Stream is water damage. We got blast jewel 3, blaze jewel 3, venom jewel 3, sleep jewel 3, right? So this is what we got here and hopefully we would get something that we were excited about. Like all of those. So that's one way to get jewels. So that's WYVERIAN melding. You're just basically creating a ton of these ancient orbs, which then turn into random decorations. And you're just hoping you get good ones. Alternatively, you can meld decorations down here. And what this does is it allows you to craft specific ones. You don't have to hope you get the thing you want. You can just come into here and craft the thing you want. Now, what you are able to craft is a very small list. And as you get higher rank, 50, 100, the list gets bigger so that you can craft more things. So when you initially come here to meld a decoration, you're not going to have nearly as many options as I do right now. This is what you have access to after you get to Hunter rank 100. Speaking of, now let's say you wanted to create earplugs, right? This earplugs jewel. This is a very popular one because the monsters in this game tend to roar, right? And when they do, your character freezes for a few seconds. And it always tends to happen right when you're about to hit them with a really powerful attack. And so it's really frustrating when that does happen. And so people like earplugs. You put this jewel on, and if you have a high enough level of earplugs, it's going to make it so that you're not interrupted by that enemy's roar. Now, if you want to make earplugs, you can see there on the left, it's going to require 80 points. So what you'd want to do is trade in things on the right to get up to 80 points. So we would probably want to look for things we're not going to use, like opening shot. This is for a ranged weapon that we don't use. So we could turn in 3 of those. And we could turn in Tetrad Shot because we're not going to use that. We could turn in Sleep Resistance because we're not going to use that. The Stench Resistance. Yeah, I'm okay with Smelting. Marathon Runner. I don't need to run far. I can't do that in real life either. Okay, so MELDs. Now this is going to create that for us. Now we have an earplug jewel that we can put into our gear, just like that. So you can come in here and shop for very specific jewels. If there's a very specific jewel that you want, or if you just want to browse what your options are, and you can make it really, really powerful, really handy, but especially useful after you get to Hunter rank 100. Now, alternatively, you can come here and you can go to MELD Relics. At first, you're only going to have the ability to see these first few options, right, as you level up, and then eventually you'll be able to see ancient weapon fragments, and then blades, tubes, discs, devices. And these are what you use to make ARTIAN weapons. So you could come in here and you could try to trade these in to get a random blade. You can combine a bunch of these to make one new random piece of those. So if you have a lot of these parts that you want to try to put to use in here to try to get a specific tubed disc or device to finish building your RTN weapon, you can do that. I found that I get plenty of these by killing monsters. I've not really had to come in here and rely on this crafting menu to build my RTN weapon. The decorations are the thing that's hard to get in this game. This is where your end game hunt is. You go, you kill the monsters you need to kill to get the materials you need to craft your armor. Easy. Your weapon, while you're killing those monsters, you're getting the pieces that you need to create your RTN weapon just passively. They're dropping constantly. But the jewels, there's so many different jewels. There's so many different decorations that you could possibly get and put into your armor. That's really the long-term endgame hunt, is min-maxing those jewels, finding the perfect ones and the perfect number of each one to really get the right number of them, so that when you're looking at your gear and you're looking at your active skills over there, you have the ones leveled up that you want to be leveled up, right? Whether it's weakness exploits or dragon attack or critical element or focus, whatever you're trying to get, you're going to be hunting down those jewels, putting as many of them into your armor as you need to max them out. Now, another thing that you'll be able to do in this game is customize your character's appearance, right? I talked about it briefly early in the video. You can come to your tent and then go all the way over to this tab here and then go to equipment appearance. Change appearance is the one where you can change the look of your actual character, right? You take the clothes off, his body. You can change the look of your character's body, the gender, whatever. You can do that one time for free, and after that, you have to buy DLC content that allows you to change your character's look. But your gear, you can change as many times as you want. So you can come in here and we can, let's say our head, right? So this is what my actual helmet looks like right now, but I'm wearing a layer or a transmog that makes it look like I'm wearing this, because I like to see my character's face from time to time. So we put an eye patch on him, gives him kind of a, you know, like a piratey look, and hey, pirates are cool, right? And the way this works is any high rank piece of gear, right? Not the low rank stuff. Remember, there's low rank gear and high rank gear. Any high rank piece of gear you craft comes into here and you can make it look like you're wearing it, even when you're not. So one reason to craft gear that you're not going to wear is just so that you can have it as a cosmetic option while you're playing the game. Beyond that, you can come in here, right? And you can change 2 different dye channels. So you can pick the color for one. Let's say we wanted this one here, right? You can pick it to be any color you want. We go all the way around this wheel. It gives you a lot of flexibility. Or you can go to dye channel 2, right? And you can change that to any color you want, going all the way around the color spectrum here. So lots and lots of customizability is tucked into here. Really nice. I like the way they did this system. It's cool. Now let's talk about crafting items. So in this game, you're going to be crafting a lot of items while you play it. You can turn on potion and mega crafting to auto. That's good. If the game had it set to auto by default, it's generally a good idea to leave it there, because anytime you have the ingredients to make these things, you're going to want to do it. Sometimes you'll have the ingredients to make mega potions, but it won't do it. So what you can do is come in here and you can just tell it to craft them. You'll never have too many mega potions. So if you can make more, you probably should, right? This is going to be really, really useful. You're going to need those. So that's how you craft. You come in here, then there's tabs at the top. So the items that I find myself using the most are the potions and the mega potions, the antidotes, and then the traps. I use a lot of traps because it cuts the hunt times by 30%. So we come over to this tab right here, the third one, and then we go to 3, and then you've got pitfall trap and shock trap. And I use a lot of these. Okay, both of them. Same with the shock trap. I make tons of these and I use one of them on every single hunt. And then also I use trank bombs every time I use one of these traps. So it takes 2 trank bombs to catch a monster that you put into a trap. So for every trap, you're going to use 2 tranks. Easy. Alternatively, in your tent, you can grill a meal. Recommended meal is just going to make one with your rations or with the meat that you found out there. So you can say cook and it will. Alternatively, you can do a custom meal, and this lets you have a little more control. On the right side, when you're doing a custom meal, you can see what you're getting out of it. So this one right here, oh, we're going to get extra elemental resistances, right? We're never going to be sad about getting more resistances in some of these fights. That can be the difference between life and death. And then you can hover over these, and in the bottom of the screen down there, like the bottom right, it says what these are going to do. So if we hover over this one, black belt meal, it says greatly reduces stamina depletion when performing stamina draining moves, such as evading, etc. So you would pick the one of these that was the most relevant to you, and you put it in, and then you go to the third one, and you pick the thing that you want to use based on the fight you're going into. My favorite ones here are Monster Chili is really good if you don't have adaptability. This makes it so that if you're in hot and cold areas, you're not being punished for it. Eastern Honey is a simple one that you probably get a lot of this ingredient. It increases the amount of health recovery that you do when healing yourself. So your heals count for more, which is always useful, right? So these are all really nice. Definitely take advantage of them. Now, one of the most important things you're going to do in your tent is between every single hunt, you're going to come back and refill your items, right? The items that are on your character, because you're going to be using these every single run, especially your 2 potions right here on the right side, right? You're going to be using those every single run, but there's a lot of these that you're also going to use every single run, especially when you get to the end game and you're swimming in all of these materials. You don't want to refill those. So what you're going to do is you're going to create a loadout that you want to bring into every fight with you. So you're going to take all the stuff out of the top that you don't want to bring every time. If you don't need it very often, then you don't want to be bringing it with you, because you have to cycle through these items sometimes, and getting to the thing you're looking for is a pain if there's more junk in the way. Save the room for useful items instead. If you have no idea what should be in here and what shouldn't be in here, here are the items I recommend having in your loadout. Okay, this is going to be important for the next step. So you'll make it. I recommend trank bombs, shock traps, pitfall trap. You can only have one of each of these, so don't worry if it won't let you put more than those. Dung pods are especially useful early on when you're tasked with tackling monsters that won't split up. So this gets them to split up. You shoot them all with a dung pod and they run in different directions, so you can fight one-on-one with the one you need to kill. Flash pod is really nice to have because it's a nice solid stun on enemies that are trying to fly away, enemies that you just want to settle down for a second so you can attack them, right? These are nice. You can bring 3 of those in. Honey is great because once you've used all of your mega potions, you can use the honey in your inventory to turn your regular potions you brought along with you into mega potions. So in a pinch, you can have even more mega potions, which is really handy. Armor charm and power charm. As you play through the game and complete the quest, you're going to be given an armor charm and a power charm, and it's going to get dumped into your inventory most likely because you will probably have been full when you received it, and they'll probably get dumped into your stash and you won't have known it. So what you need to do is put those onto your character's inventory up here. And just by holding this armor charm on you, it increases your defense. And same with the power charm. Just by holding this here, it increases your offense. So you just slot these, right? Set them and forget them. Next up, we have demon powder. This is a really handy one. You won't be able to use this too often early on, but later on when you're swimming in materials, you can pretty much use this every time you run into battle. It's just going to increase your attack power so that you're doing more damage. And that's going to stack with Might Seed, which does exactly the same thing. So it's 2 different attack buffs that stack. Might Seed is one that you will be swimming in very early because the people that run for items for you, you can collect from NATA. You can have one of those people just focus on Might Seeds so that you always can use this buff when you run into battle. And Adamant Seeds, same thing. You can use these as you run into battle, increasing your defense, just making it so that you're not the guy in the group that's wasting all of the feints. Then a hot drink and a cold drink. If you don't have adaptability somewhere on your gear as a skill that you slotted, then you're going to need these, because if you go into a cold area, you're going to want to drink a hot drink. And if you go into a hot area, you're going to want to drink a cold drink. Okay, and then antidotes. Antidotes are going to cure you for when you get poisoned. It's always nice to have. And of course, your potions. And these items are always going to be with you here. Okay, so those are the things I would recommend having in your loadout. And if you have these, you're going to be ready for just about every single situation that this game can throw at you. Now that you've made this loadout, before you do anything else, see down here at the bottom, it says manage loadouts. Click whatever button that is for you. On controller, it's L3. Right here, you would click sub menu down here, right? That button, and you're going to register the loadout, whatever it is you just made. Boom. You want to register these contents as loadout, and whichever of these slots you had selected, when you did that, it's going to put those items there like that. Now, this is really important because it's going to make your life so easy for the rest of your time playing this game. So now, every time you come back from a fight, right? Because you're going to have used all of some of those items you brought with you. You're going to have used half of some of the items you brought with you, and you won't have touched a single one of other of the items, depending on the situation. So what you'll do is you'll just come back to your tent, go items, item pouch, manage loadout, select it, use this loadout, yes. And it's going to instantly restock your inventory with all of those things. Now, you might notice that in the bottom down there, there's a sub menu and you could restock items. This is only going to top off the items that are in there. So for instance, if I took out my hot drinks and I hit restock, it's not going to put my hot drinks back, right? So if I run out of something, I'm going to have to come in here, go to my loadouts, and then select this first loadout, yes. Right? As with everything in this game, I feel like the things you need to do are always buried a few menus too deep. I feel like this is something you do so often, it should be perhaps the first thing that is available when you click on this menu. It should just say, hey, restock the current loadout. Boom. That option should be right there. That would save us this click, this click, this click, this click, this click, this click, this click. That was a lot of extra clicks. Oh, and this click right there, right? To get right back to where we were in the beginning, right? That would have saved all those clicks. And we do that between every single hunt. I'm not sure why they buried some of these things you use so often, so deep behind so many clicks, but they love their layered menus in this game. Let me tell you, they hate the idea of showing you more than a couple things on screen at once. So as much of a pain as that might have sounded like to do along with me in that moment, I highly recommend you do just set it up once and you'll never have to set it up again. You always just come here, you go in here, you use the loadout, you have everything you need every time that you head out. It's one of those things where the sooner you set it up, the sooner you never have to worry about it again. Now, speaking of menus, let's go ahead and go through all of the menus that we haven't touched on yet so that you're familiar with what they do. We've already gone through the crafting lists. We talked about that. We've talked about your pouches. We've got your item pouch. That's the one here that we just set up. Then you've got your ammo pouches if you're using a ranged weapon where you're going to want to have certain ammos with you all the time. Then you've got the ability to customize your radial menu. You can come in here and you can set up your radial menus so that they have the things you want or the things you use the most often here. The default one that they have set up works really well. So if you just want to stick with the defaults, it tends to handle the game just fine. If you want to customize it, go for it. Equipment info, here's where you can come in and you can see, more information about your character. You can look at all of the active skills that you've got going on your character. You can look at your weapon info, just anything you want to know about the gear that you're wearing at the moment is right there. Then if we go over one tab, you've got mission info. This is where you can find your active quests, whether it is a red main story quests, otherwise known as assignments, or whether it's your yellow side missions. They'll be here. You can look at the ones in progress or you can tab over to the ones that you have completed. Then below that, you've got SOS flare. So if you start a hunt, you can always click this button after you start it. SOS flare, boom. You shoot a flare into the sky. Now, any random person on the internet can join you and will join you if it's a hunt that is highly desired. So if you create a hunt for tempered Arcvault, there are people that are going to join because they need the rewards. They need the crafting materials. They need all of that, right? So they'll come. If you create a hunt for a low level, no name creature that, not many people are looking for, you might not have people join, but instead the AI characters from the story will join you. So you'll get 3 NPCs that fight alongside you and they can take a lot of the heat off you while you fight the bosses. So if you're ever struggling on a boss, no matter where you are, just send out an SOS flare, open up your menu, SOS flare, send that off, and either real people or NPCs will come to help you. And that'll make it a lot easier to get through that thing. And don't worry, the NPCs can't use all of your feints. They won't die and fail the mission for you. Real people, however, will absolutely come in and die and cause you to fail the mission from time to time. That's okay. It happens. Everybody's learning the game right now and, you're going to run into some new players every once in a while. And you've got join requests. So if you have it set up so that people have to request to join, you can inspect them before you let them into the group. I haven't seen a lot of people bother with doing this. I don't bother with inspecting people that come. It hasn't been enough of a problem that I needed to do that. I would say 9 out of 10 hunts I do succeed, at least, just by letting any random soul into the game. Next tab, we have map. This is where you can look at a detailed map or the world map. Alternatively, you can just press your map button on your controller or your keyboard, and then you can open the world map from here as well. So 2 different ways to get to the same place. So you can come in here and do that. Monster Hunter Field Guide. This is just where you can kind of look at the enemies that you've run into along the way. It tells you where they're located. If it has the crowns, you found very big versions of that enemy. And there's a little bit of information on them, where they are, what can break, what their weak points are. So this guy right here, the Radau, weak point is face. Breakable, wings, tail, severable. Nice. So I'm a great sword guy, so I'd be focusing on that tail, trying to chop that thing off. Recommended elemental attack when fighting him, water and ice. Effective status effects, you can see what works, what doesn't. Okay, there you go. It says shock traps don't work on him. Why? This guy is constantly shooting out lightning damage. Of course he's immune to an electric trap, right? However, when you run into an enemy that you can't shock trap, that's okay. You can use your pitfall trap. That's why we carry one of each on us at all times. So that's what these are all going to do. They're just going to give you a little information on these. Most people won't ever really come in here and look at these. Then you've got PALICO info. You can just see what your PALICO is wearing. Then you've got view limited bounties. Now, this is another way to see what bounties are available without going and talking to that NPC we talked about earlier. Remember how I said there's multiple ways to get to everything in this game? You can either talk to NPCs in person, or you can open up your menus, or you can go to your tent. There's always a couple of different ways to get to these things, which can lead to people being kind of confused, and it makes it feel like there's just way more going on in this game than there is. Okay, then you've got your wish list. This is where when you're talking to Gemma, the blacksmith, you can add an item to a wish list. That way, whenever you get a part that you need to create the item, the game lets you know, hey, you now have 3 out of 3 of this part. You're good to go. Or hey, now you have 3 out of 4. You still need 1 more, right? And that's what your wish list is for. It actively tracks it on screen every time you get a material that's relevant to that item. Then you've got Hunter Profile. In here, you can customize your profile. You can ball it out. I've got a nice little screenshot of my character and my PALICO chilling in the bottom left. You got a nice little message for whichever person randomly comes in here. Hello, stranger, right? It shows my level, some stuff. It's just my name. It's my card that shows up at the end of everyone. You can customize this as well. So lots of little customization you can do for people in there or yourself. Manage squads. Okay, so one thing we haven't touched on yet nearly enough is how to play with other people. So manage squads. Squads are one way. You can join a squad, you can have other people join a squad, and you can all hang out in a squad and you can squad together. This is one way, okay? You can create a squad and then you can have people search for your squad by your squad ID. Or you can search for an unknown person squad based on some credentials, right? You could say, hey, join approval, not required. Squad vibe, anyone is welcome. Or maybe they're like seeking hunters with similar HR, or new hunters welcome, or looking for veterans, right? So you can kind of pick your vibe. You can pick your rank preference, okay? So you can look for squads this way. Alternatively, if you're playing with a friend and you know your friend and you guys just want to link up, then you could do link parties. And you could say, hey, I want to invite a friend to party. And it pulls up your list of friends that you have in game. And you can just click on one of them that's online, say, hey, join my link party. And now every time you start a quest, a thing will pop up on their screen saying, do you want to join them for this quest? And then they just click yes, boom, they're tossed into your game. And now you guys are doing a quest together. Once they're in your group, you can view link members. So if you're not sure if they're in your link or not, just come here, look, you can see if they are or not. Then there is member list. Member list is going to show you who's in the lobby with you. So if you made a lobby and other people are now in your lobby, or you joined a lobby, you can see them in here, and then you can come in here and try to add them as a friend so that you can do link parties with them in the future. Then you've got voice chat. You could hop into voice if you would like to, or if you're a PC, you're probably already in Discord. Then here's invite friend. We were talking about open the friend invite screen. So if you want to invite someone else that's on your platform, so PC, you click this, it's going to open up Steam, and I'll be able to invite one of my Steam friends here. Then you've got invitation list. You can check and see if you've been invited to something here. Then you have the options for the game. There are some options in this game that I would absolutely change. Absolutely change. Minimap rotation. Turn that off if I was you. Minimap angle, fixed. I would make these fixed so that things aren't constantly rotating on you. That's just personal preference though, so do you. If it's confusing you that your health and stamina gauge disappear between battles, you could turn those on all the time. You could change the hold confirmation duration down to short if you want it to, be quicker with that stuff. Another one that I think a lot of people will enjoy changing is coming over to the camera settings, come down to camera distance. And by default, this one is down here at 4. So it's a little bit closer to your character, which means you have a little less peripheral vision and your character's taking up more of your screen's real estate. You can back that off a bit. That one's really nice to change, I think. Camera shake, if the screen is shaking too much, you can turn this one down. You can let it shake a little bit still, or you can just turn it down a lot. Those are the big ones. Another one that I saw there was a lot of people that messed this up. So when you're setting up the brightness of this game, if your game looks really washed out, or if you see a lot of smoke in the air all the time, it's likely that you kind of messed up your brightness. So the game says, make it so that you can barely see the checkers, right? See these squares? So if you do it like this, like a lot of games games, we're used to kind of overcompensating for dark areas in games where you get to a dark area, you can't see anything because you set the brightness the way they said to, and now the dark areas are too dark. So a lot of people, they kind of crank the brightness up a little bit. In this game, you don't want to do that because it will wash out all the colors. This game, when it says barely visible, make it barely visible. Then you'll do the same thing here, right? You're going to make these barely visible and this one barely visible, right? And by doing that, now the colors of your game are going to be much better, much more vibrant, much more saturated. You will be able to see the lights and the lows. Now it is the middle of the night here, but you can still see that the game's looking very saturated, very vibrant. You don't see that haze in the air that's preventing you from seeing more than 10 feet. And that is everything, guys. If you made it this far, please consider giving this a like. Please consider subscribing. It helps the channel more than you know. And these videos are a lot of work, so it's always nice to see people enjoy them. So let me know that you enjoyed it. If you did, just say hi. I read every single comment. If you've got a question, ask it in the comments below. And if you have any favorite tips you want to share with everybody else as a new player, be sure to leave those down in the comments below as well. Thank you guys so much for tuning in. Thank you so much for watching. I really appreciate it. I hope you guys enjoy the game. And if you're looking for more great videos about Monster Hunter Wilds, I've got some linked in the description of this video or popping up on screen right now. Massive shout out to my YouTube channel members. To become a channel member to support videos like this, click the join button down below or click the link in the description of this video. If you're not sure what to do next, check out one of these videos popping up on screen right now. This is Lucky Ghost, and I hope to see you in the next one. Don't forget to subscribe. Alpha Dashaguma